This evening, in continuing the conversation, I've entitled this one Deep Impact. And just so that you can have a perspective of where I'm coming from with that title, Deep Impact. As a church, we've been emphasizing the need as an organization to be more than just a place where people come to be fed. And we've really been emphasizing the need to be a church that is a church every day of the week, wherever we are, and to be an impact in our community. And the special guest that I have here with me this evening is actually the result of one of those outreaches. And I'm not going to go into too much detail about who she is, because I'll let her tell you that story. But I want to start by reading a passage to you. It's found in Matthew chapter 25, and starting at verse 34. And it says, "Then the king will say to those on his right, 'Come, you who are blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the creation of the world. For I was hungry, and you fed me. I was thirsty, and you gave me a drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me into your home. I was naked, and you gave me clothing. I was sick, and you cared for me. I was in prison, and you visited me.' Then these righteous ones will reply, 'Lord, when did we ever see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink, or a stranger and show you hospitality, or naked and give you clothing? When did we ever see you sick or in prison and visit you?' And the king will say, 'I tell you the truth, when you did it to one of the least of these, my brothers and sisters, you are doing it for me.'" And you know, that's a very profound passage when you really want to contemplate it, because you know, when you think about Jesus, who's telling this to the disciples, Jesus was never hungry, he was never thirsty, he was never naked, he was never sick or in prison, until the cross, of course. But you know, he's telling this in the sense that if you want to show him love, you just look around you. Look to the one beside you. Look to the one, you know, behind you. That's your neighbor. And so as an organization, as a church, we feel very strongly about specifically those who can't supply for themselves or can't meet some of their own needs, to be able to reach out and impact their lives. And so, as you know, the other day, Angela was in my office, and we were talking about an experience that we had, and I'll let her describe a little bit more detail. But our church has last summer had some engagement with their organization, and there was definitely a huge impact as a result. And so that's what we're going to be talking about this evening, is the deep impact in this organization that Daniela is involved with. Angela, did I say Daniela before too? Angela. Daniela is her associate. And Daniela is the one that I always engaged with primarily when I was doing my dealings, and so forgive me. Oh my goodness. Angela, please tell us a little bit about who you are yourself, what you do, where you work, and so on.
My name is Angela Yakonich, and I am the Executive Director at Windsor Family Homes and Community Partnerships. Windsor Family Homes started out as basically a housing organization. So primarily we're social housing. We have 108 scattered site units, as well as a 15-unit affordable building. So the mandate of the organization is to make sure that everyone has a safe, clean, affordable place to live. So when the organization was founded about 45 years ago, the goal of that was to house the most vulnerable. And in doing that, it was to offer supports as well. So I came into the organization, it'll be 4 years this May. My background is homelessness. I had been working with the Homeless Coalition of Windsor, Essex, as well as the Welcome Center Shelter for Women it's been 9 years total that I've been in homelessness and housing. So when I came into the organization, I brought a real passion for serving the most vulnerable. So we started by working with the City of Windsor in housing people from the by names prioritized list. What that is the list of people who are considered chronically homeless in Windsor, Essex. What chronic is defined as is 6 months or more in the past, out of the past 12. So that can be consecutively or sporadically. In addition to that, Windsor Family Homes has a very, very busy food bank. It's called the Kids First Food Bank, which is what we're probably most known for. We have served up to 900 people per week in our food bank, and that's unique individuals. People can only visit the food bank once a month unless there are tenants, and then they can visit twice a month. So we're seeing very, very, very big numbers. So years ago, the organization did have a lot of kids programs, and those kind of fell off, loss of funding, just not being able to sustain those programs. So last summer, we were fortunate enough to receive funding from Canada Summer Jobs as well as Canadian Tire Jumpstart Charities to have a summer camp. Do you want me to go into everything that you did yet? No? Okay. So our summer camp is our big, one of our big ones. So last summer, we were able to see 68 children throughout the summer, and everything was provided free of charge. So in addition to our summer camp, we do adopt-a-family programs. We do in-home visits. We have an on-site social worker, as well as currently we have 3 social work students. So we try to visit all of our tenants. We do wellness checks with them. We provide a lot of basic needs for our tenants as well. So we go at social work a little more creatively than most. If we find people are struggling, we'll go into their home and do crafts with them. We'll paint with them. We've provided things like something as simple as a toaster that, you and I may take for granted, but we're able to provide those things that make such a huge impact on our tenants.
Can you explain to everybody here, how did the relationship get established?
So a friend of mine, somebody who I actually attended a leadership program with, Nadine, she was a former tenant of Windsor Family Homes a very long time ago.
So Nadine, just so you know, Nadine is one of our congregants, Norm and Nadine, for those who you know, involved in our evangelism programs.
So Nadine reached out to me, it would have been last spring, I suppose,
Yep.
And told me that her church was looking for some projects to take on. So that's when she connected me with Pastor Larry. She asked if I had anything in mind that we really needed. Like, I can think of a million things I really need, but it's what am I actually going to ask for?
So go into that. You started on that path. Go into the detail of your initial thoughts, with the request that was presented to you.
Coming from a grassroots organization, we're a very small organization. We're only 6 staff. Funding is often a competition between organizations. Donations are often a competition, which it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. Windsor Family Homes was actually called Windsor Homes Coalition, Inc. I changed the name to really reflect what I want to do in creating partnerships with other people in the community and working together toward common goals. So I started to think about, what things we needed immediately, what things we needed long term. And you get nervous. You get nervous for those asks. So Pastor Larry came in and we started to have a conversation about, what was appropriate to ask for and what was not. So initially, we asked for a freezer. So as I mentioned, we have our food bank. And as an organization, we are able to partner with certain grocery stores and buy certain things, like protein is a big one for us, buy things like that in bulk. But if we don't have the space to put it's pretty much useless. So we were looking kind of for a chest freezer, and that sort of evolved into something a little bigger. Because we have a few chest freezers, that we found on Kijiji, stuff like that. We're like, we could really use one more. And Pastor Larry said, we have some connections, and we'll start working on that. So then we got talking about what was coming and, what would we use the food for besides the food bank. And we told Pastor Larry about summer camp. So I don't even remember how it started, but we talked about how we like to provide every single thing for free. So most of our kids in camp access breakfast programs because of the areas they live in. We're in the downtown core. We're just in a lot of our homes go into the West End. So nutrition is a big gap in the summertime. So we want to provide breakfast, lunch, as well as snacks for these kids, and sometimes stuff to take home with them as well. So Pastor Larry said, "Oh, well, how do you do that?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't know how we're going to do it. I guess we're going to ask for donations and probably feed them pasta every day," which has happened at camps in the past.
Pasta or pizza?
Pasta or pizza, because those are the easiest things to get donated or make in the Instant Pot in our kitchen. So Pastor Larry said, "Just ask. We're here to serve you." I'm like, "I'm not asking for that." So he said, what would you think if we could make lunches for these kids? So to put it into perspective, we're seeing 20 or more kids per day, 5 days a week for 8 weeks in the summer. So I'm like, there's no way that this is going to happen. And then it did.
Okay, so we finally got to that place where you asked. And we started putting together the proposal of what that was going to look like, breaking down a menu, and so on and so forth. So how did you see the impact on your residents? And obviously, through conversation, I know a little bit more. It's not just the kids that get impacted, it's the families too. But what did you see as the initially, what was the impact that the proposal would have on your ministry or on the work that you do?
Well, for the camp itself, parents are so relieved. One, they don't have to pack a lunch for the entire summer, because that's something that they sometimes have to do during the year if they have access to it. Summer gets very, very expensive for families who are on a fixed income. Kids are home. So when they can't access those breakfast programs, they're caught having to supplement and add things that they wouldn't normally have at home. And the reality is some of those kids go without. So the kids were always very excited to get there. We did a smoothie bar in the morning for them. We had cereal. And then they knew lunch was coming, and they would really get super excited when somebody was coming in. Parents are incredibly thankful. I actually, I have a couple testimonials. Later?
Yep.
Okay. The parents are so unbelievably grateful, and it's you can tell it's a relief, especially when you're a single parent family, and you have other kids as well, and you can drop off 3 kids at camp for free. And we have not all of our families are unemployed either, so some of them there's that relief of not having to find childcare in the summer, because finding a summer camp that's free is almost impossible.
Yeah. So as a church, we've been impressing upon everybody the importance that we are all leaders. I know it's hard to swallow that concept sometimes. But the truth of the matter is we're all leaders. In fact, 1 Peter 2 verse 9 says, "You are a chosen people, you are royal priests, a holy nation, God's very own possession." So as a result, you can show others the goodness of God. For he called you out of the darkness into his wonderful light. When you show others God's goodness according to the scripture, you are in fact leading them into his love for all. And that's what we continually try to impress upon everybody. So in light of those concepts and those truths, Angela, how would you say that you saw WCF or us as a church participate in being leaders or collaborating with your organization and showing the goodness of God to your residents?
When we first started the conversation, and you really taking the time to get to know us and what we do, and sort of help us establish what those needs are, that to me is true leadership. I know that I have to do that with my team quite a bit. So, really digging a little deeper than we were willing. We're like, we'd just like to have a freezer. And it was like, but what more can we do for you? How can we help you really, in a big way this summer?
So what kind of tell everybody, what kind of a freezer did you get?
It's an industrial kitchen freezer, so it has 3 doors. It's huge, so when I'm trying to get in there, I don't have to almost fall in for one, which is really nice. We already did have a walk-in freezer, but believe it or not, it actually has more room and it's more practical than the walk-in freezer. And it works a lot better than the walk-in freezer as well.
Okay, so tell the story that you shared with me, the impact of that freezer. Because when we first talked about us providing a freezer, you had a concept of what that would be used for, right? So if I'm to recall correctly, it was basically to allow for you guys to be able to pre-prep foods. But something, another little miracle kind of fell into your lap. Do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So not long after we met Pastor Larry, we were contacted by an organization that we're partnered with called Second Harvest. They're a food rescue organization. And told us that there was a restaurant moving to the Windsor, Essex area that wanted to start having conversations with us about supporting us. So that restaurant is Chick-fil-A. So we started having conversations with their public affairs team. It was sort of like dating, if you will. And having really in-depth conversations with the organization and getting to know them and them getting to know us and learning about all our programs and everything we do and our funding sources and our challenges. So it got toward the end of the summer and we knew that there was going to be a financial gift as well as a partnership which they called Shared Table. So Shared Table is where they give all of their surplus food at the end of every day, which sounds like it wouldn't be that much, but every 20 minutes, they take their food and flash freeze it. Anything that's not served in 20 minutes, they flash freeze it. So we knew we were essentially competing with a much bigger organization than our own. So late in the summer, because they were opening in October, I got a call from the public affairs person and said, Angela, we love the work you do. We've decided we're going to give you all of our surplus food, but we're not going to give you the money. We're going to give it to somebody else, which is always very difficult to hear as an organization. So I'm going to bring it back. So the freezer for the chicken alone we get a lot of Chick-fil-A. So our food bank people are getting fantastic food in the food bank, and it's protein. But, going back to the leadership thing and Pastor Larry telling me, you just need to ask. And we talked the other day about being humble, and I'm like, I guess. So I was very upset that another organization, a big one that is often funded, was getting this money. So I asked the public affairs leader if I could have a meeting with her. So we had a FaceTime conversation, and I said, why not me? And she was a little taken aback. She said, I'm really taking this to heart. She said, we picked the other organization because of the sheer size. And I said, as an organization that's grassroots with 6 staff and, we don't have a warehouse for our food bank. I said, it's what can I do better? What can I do better in the future to gain the financial support of organizations? I said, of course I'm thankful for the food. That's very helpful. But what can I do to gain the support of big corporations like yours? And she said, there's nothing you could have done different. We completely picked the other one based on size. So 4 days later, I got a call saying that the person needed to meet with me. And she wanted to have a conference call with the operator from the Windsor Chick-fil-A store. So on that call, I was informed that we'd also, in addition to receiving the surplus food that we were filling our freezer with, we were going to receive a gift of $10,000, which was fantastic, until we got the check and it was $25,000.
God is good.
Yeah. So what the feedback was from them is that, they've never had anybody ask why before. And I've never done that. I'm always just like, I'll try again next year. So
You have not because you ask not.
exactly. We talked about this
Yes, we did. Okay, so let's back up a little bit and tell us about the food you guys got from WCF.
So when the conversation happened, we figured sandwiches, some pasta, some pizza. So we get the menu. And Danielle's my programs coordinator, so she does a lot of communication with other organizations, setting up camps, stuff like that. Comes running in the office with the printout of it, and she's like, look at this bougie menu. She was just like, oh my God. So we're reading this menu, and this is, we're dealing with a population that doesn't get a lot of really good stuff. They don't. So at first we were like, oh my God, are they going to eat it? And then we're like, oh my God, they get to have this food that they'll never have this experience of having any other time. So food was amazing. The kids loved it. It was awesome. And like I said before, the kids were so excited. They knew when the volunteer was there dropping off the food. They're like, it's here. So
That's awesome. Can you cue up that video at this time? So we're going to show this video here real quick. And basically, this is just a video. We've shown it to the church once before, but it's an overview of this summer camp program that they ran over there. So some of those images in that video are also part of we did two projects in summer. One was Windsor Residents, Inc., and the other one was the Angela's program with the Windsor Family Homes Coalition.
community partnerships.
Community partnerships. Share with us some of the stories that you shared with me regarding the impact.
All right. Well, right off the bat, we started getting, parents thanking us in emails, and we had a lot of kids with behavioral issues as well. So it was like, somebody's taking the time with us and with our kids, and really investing in it. And to put it into context, we had two 17-year-old boys that were helping run this camp, so they learned a lot this summer. So I do have a couple testimonials from parents. We had a number, but we picked a couple of the ones that were most appropriate. My son attended camp at Windsor Family Homes last summer. Normally he doesn't enjoy going to camps, but every day I picked him up and he was so happy. His favorite thing about the camp was the variety of activities they got to do and the fun times. For me, knowing my son would have breakfast, lunch, and snacks provided was the best part. In the summer, we don't have access to breakfast programs at school, and financially packing big lunches is tough. I appreciate very much that he got to eat good food, and I didn't have to worry about him when he was there. Everyone was so nice, and I hope he can come back this summer. Thank you, Maria C. Summer camp was so much fun for my daughter. She liked that they got to spend time outside and that they got to do mindfulness activities. She bonded with the camp counselors and made friends easily, which is normally hard for her. She said her favorite thing about camp were tie-dyeing shirts and the chicken strips and mac and cheese. Having this camp as an option for her was a blessing. We were so surprised that the camp was free for her to attend, with all the food provided and the field trip too. Thank you for letting her be a part of it and providing this camp for kids like my daughter, Sarah O.
So I don't know how many of you have experienced Norm's mac and cheese. Yeah? Like that, there's something special about that. Like, I mean, mac and cheese, oh, mac and cheese, that's a kid's meal. Yeah, it's a kid's meal. But I'm telling you, Norm's mac and cheese, now that's something special. But anyways, so how would you describe looking back over the experience? Has the experience changed any of the ways that you as an organization lead?
You know, when we do things that are successful, we always want to do more. We want to be able to provide for more kids. You know, COVID put a really big wrench in a lot of our plans. We were able to run a March break camp last week, which was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
You know, we looked at the camp and we looked at the kids that benefited the most.
Yeah.
We did some adjustments for this summer coming based on age, based on, you know, the areas that we would target. And we don't, just to let you know, we don't, the camp is free for everyone. It's not just kids in need. And we feel that it's very important. And we decided this last summer and we noticed that kids coming from different demographics combining in one space is so beneficial, especially for the kids with more privilege. They learn so much from the kids that don't have as much. Yeah. So, you know, we made that a really big part of it. We made sure that the older kids last year, the age was, it was grade 4 to 8, I believe. We switched that up this year. We're taking the little ones, but no, sorry, it was grade 2 to 8. We made sure the older ones had a part in the leadership of it. So, you know, Pastor Larry talks about, you know, everybody's a leader. Yeah. We made sure to do the same thing. No, not with the really little ones, but, you know, taking the older ones and giving them tasks to help out, understanding that, you know, they need to give back too. So we, you know, we make a role for everyone and we do the same thing. And I do the same thing with my staff. I love hearing their ideas and, you know, the feedback and, you know, how can we do better?
Awesome. So there's some obvious immediate impact that's had through a project like this. But in relationship to the project that we did with your organization, what would you say is maybe how would you see a long-term impact?
Long-term impact is in so many ways. You know, the kids, they look forward to coming back. We get calls. So, you know, we're already starting to generate a wait list for next summer. What we do to try to make it fair for everyone is we do 2-week blocks. The kids get priority who haven't attended before, and then we add in the rest later on. Some of the kids who come from families who are, you know, really struggling. We have one girl in particular who has asked us how old she has to be to work at the camp. And that, you know, that's a big one. This is coming from a family where there's some addictions and mental health going on. So the reality and the cycle of what she lives in, of her being employed, is low. But she's looking forward to that, and, you know, she's like, I can't wait to work at this camp, which is really awesome. And one of the things is running a successful camp like this, and being able to share that with the community puts us on the radar for support and more partnerships with other organizations. So long-term, being able to, you know, document what we've done, you know, through videos like this, videos we've done, pictures and stuff like that, and sharing that, we get more and more support from the community.
Perfect. So talking about support, you know, I know there's not very many here this evening, but how would you encourage those that are here to be more intentional about the impact that they have in the lives of others? And in that, you know, I'm giving you permission to throw a little promo for your own ministry, for your own organization.
So I mentioned it a little bit when I was talking about Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
Being a small, lesser-known organization, and it's funny, a lot of people only know even about our food bank because we were robbed a couple years ago. So that's kind of the sad thing that put us on the map. And working in, working at macro level social work jobs, so systems level, and looking at the smaller organizations in our community, and there are so many small organizations like ours that do incredible work, but it's often overlooked by funders. It's often overlooked by philanthropists in the community. I really encourage people to take a look at the little guys in the community. Find out, even one. It doesn't have to be us. We'd like it if it was us, but go out and have a visit. We're always willing to give a tour, show you what we do, introduce you to our staff, and just really listen about the good work that the underfunded or overlooked organizations are doing, because there's a lot of little ones that are doing incredible things without the same kind of budget to do so, I guess. And another piece of it is offering help in those organizations. We are highly driven by volunteers. And COVID has really, really put a wrench in volunteerism. And we're still not getting the numbers back that we have. We went from about 28 volunteers to about 6, which is okay right now. We're functioning that way. Our food bank is 2 days a week, but the numbers are increasing in food banks again. That means we might have to open a few more days a week. So, lending a hand, and the biggest one is telling other people about these organizations. Talk about it. Talk about, if you don't have the time to help, you hear even a youth talk about they're looking for volunteer opportunities. Talk about the little guys instead of the big ones all the time, because those ones are never going to run out of time or people lending their time to the big ones.
So you talk about, we all have a mouth. We all can talk. And, in conversation, you find out somebody's looking for an opportunity to give back to the community. And, it's actually one of those small things that can have a huge impact, right? And my last question, besides that, what are some of the small things that people can do, get involved with, that actually have huge results in your organization?
I started volunteering as even for just an event. Volunteering's a big one. Dropping off a few canned goods is a huge one. It's not doing a little food drive is a big one.
Fall and winter, you have a special.
Yes, in fall and winter. So, in the fall, we used to participate, and I'm hoping we do again this year, in the Coats for Kids campaign. Call us and let us know if we're doing that. We also have an adopt a family program. So our tenants come first, so we approach the 108 units first. And we try to make sure that every family that's in need has Christmas. So how that looks is you pick a family based on size and what you can accommodate. And that would be, you can pick a single mom with 3 kids, and we can typically accommodate that. And then we hand you a list of their wishes. And we work with the family as well. We always try to make sure mom or dad or both get gifts as well. We also have a children's Christmas party that we host every year. We haven't been able to do it for the past 2 years, but we're hoping to bring that back. We make it a big ordeal with breakfast and all that stuff. And we also have a Christmas gift basket, a dinner program for families that we hand out. So lots going on in the fall that we always need help with.
That's awesome. So I know that we're ahead of schedule. I hadn't planned a program for just the two of us. We were actually expecting somebody else to be up here with us this evening. But I'm just going to do something random, off the cuff. If anybody has a question that you want to throw out for Angela about the work that she's doing, just speak up loudly. Anybody?
I have my business card available, and you can shoot me an email. I'll connect you with the programs coordinator. And I know right now we're looking for volunteers in our food bank on Mondays and Fridays from 1:30 to 4. We're at 900 Howard, so we're just north of Erie Street at Niagara.
Yeah.
So we're on the border of Walkerville and downtown. We actually run right into the Glengarry housing. Like that's right down our street. So
Thank you. Anybody else?
So, as I mentioned, homelessness is my passion. So it was the next logical step for me to move into housing. So I sit on the Built for Zero team, which is the national strategy team for ending homelessness. We're doing the work. We are. Unfortunately, we're in a housing crisis right now, a really big one. We're also in a very big real estate crisis. So not only is there a lack of housing, but the housing that's available is being purchased by developers or investors from big cities and then being rented for very high costs. I just sat in on a meeting yesterday with the city of Windsor. We're doing the best we can with what we have right now.
Yeah.
The list is higher than it's ever been in our community. COVID plays a role in that. Not necessarily, I get a lot of questions like, do you find people lost their jobs and now they're homeless? It doesn't usually happen that quickly. But the impact on people's mental health and the increased addictions is definitely not helping the situation.
Yeah.
The numbers in food bank have increased because, people have been out of work for so long. If I could buy a ton of housing and house everybody, I would. One of the unique things about our organization is we're not just housing, we make sure we're supporting people to keep them housed. I won't house anybody that doesn't have supports with them. So whether that comes from me or other organizations that I'm working closely with, I'm not in the business of housing people for them to fail. I'm in the business of housing people so they can succeed.
Yeah.
So I'll brag a little bit. We've housed now 27 people who are chronically homeless in the last 4 years. So that's a lot for an organization our size. And we've only had one failed tenancy. Typically, it takes people who have been experiencing homelessness just as long to remain housed as they were on the street. So it's a whole different culture, right?
Yeah.
They're used to their street friends. They're used to that community, and all of a sudden you put them in a unit with 4 walls and they're alone. So it's lonely, right? So a lot of times these tenancies fail. There was just an announcement. There are 61 new units going up in the community, which is a start. We'll get there, I hope. Reuniting people with families is a big one. We do something that's called diversion. So when somebody comes into shelter or, even just presents at my door, we talk about, is there family you can stay with and get supported for a while until we can find you some housing? So we try not to let people get on the street, but it's like nothing I've ever seen. When I started in this field, I would go into schools and talk, and I always led my talk with, what does a homeless person look like? I did this activity with grade 6s, and then it was, you don't see homeless people in Windsor. And here we are, 5 years later, and it's I never expected it to be like this, so. People don't access shelter as much in the summer. They don't need to because it's a little bit safer on the street. And obviously the weather's better for them. And we have noticed there are people, and I don't think it's consistently, that choose to live on the street in the summer. It's a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
So, and the reality is families are more likely to let someone stay with them throughout the winter than the summer. When I was working in shelter, our numbers were always lower around Christmas time too. The need for housing is there. So there was just a study done, and there are, I can't even remember the amount of properties right now that qualify for what's called an additional dwelling unit. So that's where you can turn a garage, a detached garage, or you could put a tiny home, because it's all the rage. But we like to look at modular housing in a backyard because the yards are big enough. We have 9 properties currently that are identified as suitable for ADUs, which means that because the home in front of it is 2 levels, that means 18 new homes. So I'm hoping, but that we're looking at 5 years. That's the reality of it. But I'm looking at 18 so far.
So Angela, can you describe the demographic of the people, the residents that you're overseeing? Like what the age demographic or like the ethnic demographic? Just break it down a little bit.
We have a little bit of everything. So we primarily take, we did primarily take all of our tenants from the Central Housing Registry list. You always hear, it's usually referred to as the Windsor Housing List. And you'll also hear that it's 5,000 people long, but it's not 5,000 people, it's 5,000 applications long, which means that multiply that by, let's average 2 or 3 per family. So it's a lot more people that are looking for affordable housing. Not all of those people on that list are homeless. They're just looking for rent-geared to income housing. There's no more social housing. So I have anywhere from tiny babies all the way up until senior citizens. We do have a few tenants right now that are at end of life, and we're working closely with them as well, which is something new to us, but we're learning. We do also have a newcomer population, so we partner with other organizations that can support them as well. We've housed multiple women who are coming from abusive situations, so domestic violence as well as human trafficking. So we work with a little bit with everybody, but the challenge sometimes is that when I'm talking about these different populations, they have very different needs. Yeah. So I lean on my community partners as much as possible when I'm housing people to make sure that they have the most appropriate supports that we can give them.
Yeah, that's good. Is there another question?
How old are you? 12? If it was an event, like if we had like our kids' Christmas party or something like that, and we're all there, you could absolutely come and help out. And even in summer camp, if you want to help out. My daughter, who's 14, will be helping this year.
Cool. Woohoo! I love to hear questions like that. How old can you be?
Like I said, even in our summer camp last year, we forced the older ones to help out with the younger ones, so we're not opposed to any help. We'll take any help we can get.
Another question. If not, Angela, I've enjoyed listening to you share again. And I know for myself, and I'm sure for everyone here, it just stirs my heart. The work that you're doing and the impact that you're having on people with needs and whatnot. And just to realize that even though, I mean, we look at it as a small thing, but the impact that it can have, and not just for the immediate, but long-term impact as well. It's an honor to partner with your organization, and perhaps, Lord willing, we'll see what comes up, but maybe we'll have more projects that we can partner together with.
I just want to thank you and your congregation and, the people you work with every day. It was such a huge, I was explaining the other day to Pastor Larry that us not having to search weekly for lunches for these kids or us, running around because they delivered it every day, allowed us the time to spend more time with the kids and not have things disrupted and, not to worry every day because it's constantly like, do you have lunch for Wednesday? Do you have lunch for Thursday? So it was such a huge relief for me as the executive director. I was able to go on vacation in the summer and not worry. And that's a big one. Working in nonprofit, you don't get a lot of breaks. I wouldn't change it for the world. But I talked to my board about it, and they're like, really? This kind of thing doesn't happen. So it was, we are so incredibly thankful for your partnership and your support and really encouraging us to ask because we weren't going to. Now, don't get me wrong. My staff will come in my office and give me lists of things they want, and I will shoot down every idea and say, we can't ask for that. We can't ask for that. Well, I think my approach is going to change thanks to the work you've been doing with me as well.
Awesome. Well, let's close in prayer. Father God, we want to praise you and we want to thank you for, first of all, for your love and that you gave everything so that we can actually have life. And for that, we just praise and honor you, Lord. And I thank you that you fill our hearts with so much love, Lord, that it overflows. And we share it with those that you give us, that you place in our path. And I thank you for the opportunity that we've had to partner with Angela and their organization and to be able to bless them. And I pray that even from tonight, Lord, that you'll have stirred in somebody's heart this understanding that it can be in some of these small things that have such huge impact on the lives of others. And Lord, that we can together collaborate in being an influence in the world that you have placed us in and in our community. And who knows how far that impact actually reaches. But we thank you for those opportunities. We pray for open eyes, for an understanding to see the need and then to act upon it. Pray your blessing on each and every one as we go from here in Jesus' name. Amen. God bless you guys.